Hey guys, and welcome back to my channel. Today I am sitting down to do my first trimester, like a recap update video. I can show you a little bump as well. I'm so excited to be sitting here and filming this video, not only because I'm so excited to finally be pregnant. If you guys are not like familiar with my channel or haven't been along for the journey and for the ride, my husband and I did all the like fertility things that you can pretty much imagine. It's been a long 2.5 years to get to this point. We did a bunch of IUIs, a round of IVF, a failed transfer, obviously a successful transfer, all the things. I do have a whole like TTC playlist and then also a pregnancy playlist, so I will link both of those if y'all are interested in our journey or if you're struggling with infertility as well and just kind of want to peek into how it went for us and how we found success. It's been a long ride. We are so excited to finally be here and it was so worth it, of course. I'm not like only excited to be filming just because I'm pregnant. Obviously, I'm so thrilled every single minute of my life, every second of my life to be pregnant, but also because we're here in the second trimester. Like, I'm in my second trimester. Like, it's just kind of a relief to make it here safely, but also a lot of the symptoms have pretty much come and gone and I'm feeling honestly like a normal person. I don't really even feel super pregnant a lot of the time. I've been keeping notes for every single week since week 3, so I'm not gonna like go, I hope this isn't gonna be too long. I'm gonna try not to go like too super in depth and make this forever long, and then also just some like notable moments or like milestones of that week, or you know, just some whatever went down during that week, whether it was an appointment or we found something out or whatever. I wanted to give you a little recap of how my first trimester went, and then here I can show you a little bump update real quick. This outfit's probably not the best. There's the bump, there's my cat as well. But yeah, I feel like you can kind of see it there. It's not huge, but it's definitely getting there. The bump obviously looks different from like day to day, and it's the morning time right now, so it's usually like a little smaller in the morning. And of course it like varies. I'm about 14.5 weeks right now. So honestly, I do need to say, I feel like my pregnancy, it's still so crazy to me in my world to even be saying like my pregnancy. Like the fact that I'm pregnant still blows my mind all the time. But it's honestly been super smooth, pretty like normal and standard. It's so funny because I obviously have all, you know, the different apps, Pregnancy Plus and What to Expect. I think I have like 4 or 5 that I check every Friday, like when my week resets or starts over. I feel like honestly majority of the time I'm feeling whatever it says to like expect to be feeling. Like I feel like I'm literally like a very textbook pregnancy so far. So I'm gonna start from the beginning because I feel like that makes sense. So week 3 was when I had my frozen embryo transfer, and I did start feeling a little bit nauseous about 2 days after the transfer. So obviously if you are not doing like assisted fertility stuff, things are gonna be a little bit different for you because the transfer, it starts implanting within like a day or 2 or 3 days after that. But I started feeling some nausea and I had like a really terrible stomachache and diarrhea 2 days after my transfer. The diarrhea and stomachache honestly like persisted for like hours, which I usually will have like if my stomach bothers me. It's like a very short-lived thing. This is gonna be TMI, but the diarrhea was like almost black. It was like such a dark green that it was almost black, which I know is super gross. That was like in my mind like the first sign that I thought I was pregnant. It only happens when my stomach is bothering me, but that's been a pretty consistent thing throughout my whole pregnancy, so that was definitely like a pregnancy related thing. I don't know if it's like a hormone thing or what exactly. That was the first thing that like tipped me off, that I was like, maybe I am pregnant, because that had never happened to me. I never had a stomachache like that, and I never have had dark diarrhea like that, especially that like persisted. The lighting's gonna change. I'm just sitting by the window, so I apologize. And then I just started getting kind of tired that week a little bit, but nothing like too crazy, but I was definitely starting to feel a little bit more fatigued than normal. So that was like my first tip off, was the diarrhea situation. And keep in mind, I didn't have a positive pregnancy test or anything yet at this point. So then in week 4, I just kind of had like some dull cramping, like just sort of a heavy feeling, like definitely not like period, like menstrual cramps, but it was noticeable enough that I was worried that I was gonna get my period, and I was starting to think, oh, maybe I'm not pregnant, like I'm kind of crampy, like maybe this is my period starting. And so I was honestly very worried at that point. And I was actually reading a book at that point. I was reading The Nightingale by Kristen Hanna, and I cried at the ending of the book, which there are very few books. I feel like there's only maybe one other book in my whole life that I've cried at. So I feel like my like hormones and my like emotions were starting to be a little bit heightened because I cried at a book. look. So that was also kind of a weird thing that I noticed. And then I definitely started to feel more nauseous than before. Like, not like I was actually gonna puke. I pretty much throughout my whole pregnancy, maybe only like 2 or 3 times so far have I ever felt like I might throw up. I've been pretty nauseous a lot of the time, but I've never thrown up, and I've very rarely even felt like I had to puke, but I definitely felt just nauseous. And so week 4, I definitely started getting emotional, started feeling nauseous, still had like that heaviness and crampy feeling, wasn't really sleeping well, wasn't really hungry. And then I did get my positive pregnancy test at week 4, which was obviously super, super exciting. I actually got a cold sore on my lip, which I do tend to get those. Most people that have cold sores, you know, they come up every so often. It's typically when you're like sick or when your immune system is just kind of suppressed. And of course, when you are pregnant, your immune system is suppressed to keep your body from potentially rejecting the pregnancy. So I think that was a little bit of a sign that I was pregnant too, that I got a cold sore. I was definitely starting to pee a good amount, but I was also having a lot of anxiety that first week about, you know, having a miscarriage and just like being scared that I was gonna stay pregnant. And I feel like probably a lot of people feel that way. I think that's fairly normal, but especially when you've gone through fertility treatments and just so much like assisted reproductive technology, like there's just so much on the line just because of how much time and effort and money and like all the work that you've put into becoming pregnant. I just feel like there's so much more to be scared about. But then again, I was on like a lot of extra hormones as a result of IVF, so that was also a huge help to keep, you know, my pregnancy sustained, because I didn't have hormone fluctuations because I was on hormones. Part of me felt really safe, but also part of me just felt super, super worried. And I had like a night especially where I didn't even sleep because I was having like a panic attack over how worried I was, which again is probably normal, but that happened that week where I like didn't sleep. Week 5 is when my boobs started to hurt, and my boobs have hurt pretty consistently since then until recently, which I will get to that. But my boobs like really started hurting in week 5, and again, I was definitely having the diarrhea like more often, and it was definitely like that dark green, almost black kind of situation. Let me know if y'all have experienced that. I know this is gross and we're gonna talk about poop in the comments, but let me know if that is a pregnancy thing y'all have experienced. My husband looked it up and apparently it is normal and it's caused by hormones, but I don't know how common it is, so I would love to know. I definitely started feeling kind of constipated too, and that's a super normal pregnancy thing, and I'm still having that problem even to this day. Like, it's just, things are just not as, so they're not moving through quite as efficiently as they once did, so that's definitely a thing. The cramping was kind of coming and going around that time. Again, not like super heavy, nothing painful, but just like a feeling of just feeling something going on down there, and definitely some of those little like kind of sharp shooting pains. If you've ever been pregnant, then you would know exactly what I mean, but just kind of those like quick little pains that they're not like achy, like they don't hurt like, oh my gosh, you're not doubled over, but it just kind of feels like a quick shooting little pain. Those are pretty normal and happened definitely kind of frequently. Definitely feeling more and more nauseous in week 5 and more vaginal discharge for sure. That's a super normal pregnancy thing that started and has definitely been continuing and even ramping up lately. And then that's also when like the nausea really started ramping up. I literally have a note in here that there was a day where I wasn't just nauseous in the morning. Like, a lot of times I would get nauseous in the morning and then in the afternoon, but I started getting nauseous like for days at a time. Like, again, I didn't throw up. A couple times felt like I wanted to, but there was a day or two where I was like nauseous from sun up to sundown, and there was nothing that did anything about it. So I know I've been kind of like saying a lot about these first couple weeks because I had like tons of notes from these first couple weeks. As we go on, my symptoms either like they don't change or there's nothing new, so this will start speeding up, I promise. I feel like this is important because if you are watching this video to like see like, am I maybe pregnant, am I maybe pregnant, these are some of the things you might want to look out for, because these were like my super early symptoms. Some people don't even get a positive test by week 5, so if you're feeling any of these things, it could be a good sign, maybe. Definitely something to look out for. Week 6 really wasn't super different. Vaginal discharge, some of those like kind of shooting cramps, nausea, a little bit more fatigue. Definitely started feeling pretty bloated as well, but that also, like I said, I was on a lot of hormones, so it was probably a combination of like my natural hormones plus the extra hormones I was on. Those started making me like bloated even before I was pregnant. During week 7, my boobs, I feel like definitely started hurting like a lot more, and definitely started like growing. Like, I just started noticing, and my husband started noticing, that they were looking like they were starting to, you know, kind of fill out, and they got like firm too. Like, they even obviously still now, but they're just like a different texture. Like, if you were to like squeeze them, they're just more firm and just feel fuller. They're definitely not as like squishy. Oh, hello, little girl. Whenever I film downstairs, all the cats are here. We had an ultrasound this week during week 7, and we saw the baby and the heartbeat, and it was amazing. But this is actually when I really started like losing my appetite, and I went a couple weeks where, again, I don't even think it was related to the nausea, because even when I wasn't nauseous, I just had no desire for any food. Like nothing sounded good to me, like nothing besides cereal. I really didn't want anything. Like everything that was an option, I was like, don't want that. Don't want that. Nothing sounded good. I had no appetite. During week 8, I started noticing the boob pain kind of came and went. Like sometimes my boobs would be hurting, like even to like the slightest touch, and then sometimes I wouldn't feel anything. I think that's pretty normal, again, due to, you know, just the slight fluctuation in your hormones. Definitely a little bit of like lightheadedness, which again is also be the result of hormones and just kind of like your blood circulation changing. Because, you know, by week 8, you're 2 months pregnant technically. So, you know, you're definitely getting into the thick of it at this point. I started being so thirsty in week 8, and that has not changed at all. I have been so thirsty. I've been drinking like 150 plus ounces of water a day. I literally drink so much water constantly. You'll never see me without a water bottle, and I am chugging it all the time, which of course is great. I stay super hydrated, but again, it's kind of annoying because I'm peeing all the time, maybe even more so than I normally would be peeing due to being pregnant. But I got so thirsty, and that has never changed at all. And actually week 8 is when I noticed how clear my skin got. This is probably a weird one, but my skin has never been better than it is right now. I actually, on my very first, it's like super tiny. You can probably not even notice it. It's super tiny. I haven't had like a single blemish other than this little baby guy in, at this point, like 2.5 months. Like my skin cleared up almost as soon as I got pregnant. My skin's been perfect. I haven't had like a single blemish. I feel like a lot of people complain about pregnancy acne as a result of all the hormones, but I've had like the opposite. My skin has never been better than it's been right now since I've been pregnant. So that has been one of the most amazing side effects, or like symptoms, of being pregnant. During week 9 is when I really started getting a lot of the fatigue coming on, but the nausea kind of abated for the most part by week 9. My appetite started improving a little bit, but I still was not hungry and literally didn't want anything. But the idea of food stopped making me want to like literally run. I wasn't like completely appalled by the idea of food, but I still didn't really want anything. It just didn't gross me out as much. So having the dark poop, and my stomach, my belly started feeling so hard in week 9. I think obviously the uterus started getting bigger, things started moving around a little bit, and my belly, and obviously still to this moment, you can touch it and it is just so firm and so hard. Obviously it starts getting harder kind of in like the lower abdominal area, but now that it's, you know, starting to move, and I think it's gonna be out of my pelvis in the next week or 2, like pretty soon. So now I'm starting to even have that firmness like way up, like in my upper abdominal area. Like now pretty much my whole entire belly is really hard, but it started being really like noticeably firm around week 9. We had an amazing ultrasound at week 9 too. It was so amazing. It was actually able to be done like through my belly rather than a transvaginal ultrasound. There was an amazing heartbeat. It actually looked like a baby in that ultrasound, like rather than just a little like white blob. And it was moving and dancing around like a crazy, like it was so active. And the sonogram tech just like left the little monitor on my belly, and it was like a movie. We just got to watch the baby just jump around and twist and turn and kick, and it was the coolest thing. It was like the most magical moment of my whole entire life, and that was during week 9. During week 10, I feel like I was finally starting to show a little bit. I mean, I pretty much just looked like I had eaten too many donuts to like the average person, but to me, I could kind of notice it a little bit starting to pop out, like my lower belly, and I officially outgrew one of my bras. Like my boobs were just like spilling out of it. Like it was literally, it wasn't working. Like I cannot wear that bra anymore. And again, like I said, the nausea mostly stopped. I was having like maybe little moments of it here and there, but by week 10 it really wasn't nauseous anymore, which again, as you start getting closer to the second trimester, the second trimester is kind of up for debate, whether it's like beginning of week 12, the end of week 12, the beginning of week 13, the end of week 13. I feel like a lot of the books, a lot of the apps, a lot of doctors, like it's not completely agreed upon. So, but that's normal. Once you start getting towards the second trimester, where I am now, a lot of the symptoms start going away, and that's what you're gonna start seeing like around week 10, you know, when I was like 2-ish, 3 weeks away from my second trimester. I really started to not feel a lot of the stuff I was feeling. The nausea pretty much went away. Even now, like 14.5 weeks, I have like moments where I feel a little nauseous, but definitely not for extended periods of time, and definitely not anywhere near like the same level of nausea as at first. I definitely started getting more tired at week 10. At week 10, we actually got my blood work drawn for our panorama, which was our chromosome and gender like blood test, just with my blood. So we had that drawn at week 10. That's the soonest I believe you can get blood taken for the chromosome/gender test. Week 11 was a really big week for us because that's when we stopped all of my hormone medication, so my progesterone and my estrogen that I was on from when we did my transfer. It's all just like the supplementary hormones that come along with doing an IVF transfer. So we officially stopped those at week 11, which of course was a little bit of a nerve-wracking experience because you kind of feel like that's what's keeping your pregnancy going and keeping it like successful and keeping the baby going. And it's definitely nerve-wracking, but I think like theoretically and technically you could stop those hormones at like week 7 or something like that, and they just keep you on it a little bit extra, I guess, just to make you feel safe. So it was totally fine. Obviously nothing changed, and honestly I didn't feel any different stopping all the hormones, which is crazy to think that I was taking all these extra hormones and then I stopped them all at the same time and didn't notice or feel any different. My belly was definitely getting rounder and harder around week 11. My boobs were hurting like even more. Definitely still didn't have much of an appetite, and I just started feeling more comfortable. Like I feel like when you're kind of early in your pregnancy, you're kind of mentally uncomfortable because you're a little bit still worried that something could happen, and you're just kind of afraid that any move you make, any decision, like if you eat the wrong thing, like anything could kind of jeopardize the pregnancy. But I feel like the longer that you're pregnant, you start feeling more comfortable mentally, like no, I'm having this baby, like it's in there, and you just feel safer, but also just more comfortable physically in the sense that you are not like as worried about doing the wrong thing physically, and all your symptoms are kind of starting to go away, so you just feel more comfortable that way as well. So I just noticed that I wasn't constantly worrying about like everything I do hurting the baby, like are these leggings too tight, is it hurting the baby? Like I just started getting more comfortable in general, and I feel like this is when I also just started to like think about being pregnant 24/7. Like I feel like sometimes in the beginning it's almost like you kind of not like forget that you're pregnant, but it's just not like the first thing in your mind because it's still so new that it doesn't occur to you constantly that you're pregnant. But now that I have been pregnant for such a while, I felt like I was just thinking about being pregnant and thinking about the baby at all times. And I mean, I love that, but it was like being pregnant was just, rather than it being a new thing, it was just like, you know, my new normal, and I liked that. I was still having to pee a good amount. I was still having to either wake up early to pee and sometimes starting to pee at night, but that pretty much stopped almost right after week 11, which again, around like the beginning of your second trimester is when your uterus is moving upwards, and so it's not really resting on your bladder as much. So again, like I said, I've been kind of textbook. I was like peeing a lot, peeing at night, waking up to pee in the morning, exactly when you usually pee a lot. And then when it started like moving away from my bladder, I literally like stopped having to pee quite as often. Like I haven't woken up to pee in weeks. So again, very much like by the book. And I started sleeping a lot better during week 11 as well, again, because I wasn't waking up to pee, which was nice. And then I made note that I really didn't feel nauseous hardly ever. I did start taking naps around this week because again, I was getting tired, but like I rarely nap. So I finally started taking naps, and I started noticing a lot of hair on my belly. And I know like having more hair growth in certain places is a normal pregnancy thing. I've heard some people have it more on like their face or their neck. I have it on my belly. I have like, you know, you always have kind of like that little happy trail or whatever, but like just my whole like lower belly is just hairier. It's the strangest thing. I like started shaving it because it's just so obvious, but during week 11 I noticed a lot of extra belly hair. Please again tell me if that's anything you've experienced. It's so strange, even my husband started noticing it. It's not like, you know, leg hair, it's just kind of like that peach fuzz, but still, it's weird. During week 12, I definitely started seeing an improvement in my appetite. Food was sounding a little bit better to me, and I was more like interested in eating. And I also really started noticing like my belly poking out a lot more during week 12. And then I started getting so tired, like it hurt sometimes. Like literally, I was like, it is hurting for my eyes to be open and for me to be awake right now. Like staying awake was painful. So that was the level of fatigue I got to at week 12. And then again, still boob pain, still constipated. I think I'm gonna probably be constipated for the entirety of the pregnancy because it's been the whole time. And then last week, week 13, huge improvement in my appetite. Definitely like not in the mood for a lot of things. Like before I would eat any and everything. Now I'm still more picky about like what I'm interested in, but I'm more in the mood to eat. I can eat like more. It's not like I get full after like a couple bites like I used to. I'm more interested in food and more things sound good. And we did have a doctor's appointment, and we just got to hear the baby's heartbeat on the Doppler. We didn't have an ultrasound or anything, and it was so amazing. And now we are here in week 14, and actually it's funny because the apps or whatever said your boobs will probably start hurting as much. They're still gonna be growing and still like getting fuller, but they're not gonna ache as much. And it's so funny because like now I've noticed in the past probably 3 or 4 days, they haven't hurt quite as much. They're still like a little bit, here I'm over here just like poking my boob. They're still like a little bit tender, but when I would wake up over the like few weeks ago, like they would hurt just waking up. And now it's definitely less so. So again, everything they say, like you're gonna stop peeing, your boobs are gonna stop hurting, you're gonna stop feeling nauseous. Like all those things are so true. But then of course they do say, you know, now that things are kind of more rapidly growing, obviously you're gonna start showing a little bit more. The baby's getting a lot bigger, the uterus is moving up. It's normal to start feeling kind of just more aches and pains in general in like the lower abdominal area because things are moving and growing, and that's definitely something I've noticed. Not like a crampy feeling, but just again like feeling like something's happening down there. Like something's going on, things are stretching, things are moving around. You can definitely tell stuff is happening, but not in a painful or uncomfortable way or anything like that. So that's pretty much how I've been feeling for the last, I guess, 10 weeks technically, because I started at like week 3, so 10 or 11 weeks. That's been my pregnancy experience so far. Super like chill pregnancy so far. Like thank God, obviously, like thank God, I'm so blessed to be able to say that. There's been no, like nothing scary. We got the results of our chromosome test and the baby is perfectly healthy, at least chromosomally, so we were so thankful for that. And like I didn't have to throw up. I never felt like just down for the count where I couldn't do anything. There were really no days where I like had to lay in bed for a long time. Like everything's just been going so smoothly. I've had pretty normal symptoms, but I would say on the milder side. I've been really enjoying being pregnant so far. So of course they say the second trimester is like the golden period of pregnancy, and honestly I felt like my first trimester, other than being nauseous a lot of the time, was totally fine. I literally feel like a normal person that just so happens to be pregnant. Like I don't feel overly pregnant. I feel pretty much normal. There's just like these little things here and there. So I'm so thankful to have such a smooth and kind of like textbook of pregnancy so far. I'm so super thankful. Praying that continues into my second and third trimester, of course, and through labor and delivery. I would be so thrilled to just have like a normal pregnancy. I think that's probably what everyone hopes for. So everything has been going super well. I'm so excited that the bump is starting to be out and coming in hot at this point. I'm just excited to like have a real bump, like where people can tell I'm pregnant. Like people that know me that know I'm pregnant can see it, but if you didn't know I was pregnant, you just probably think that I just gained weight and I've been eating too many cheese fries. That's what you'd probably think. So that is my first trimester like recap experience so far. Please let me know in the comments if y'all have had like similar symptoms or slightly different. Just like let me know some of the things I've been feeling are not I'm not the only one, that I'm not like completely crazy. Thank you guys so much for watching. I will definitely continue to have all the pregnancy content, the mom, the baby. As you've probably seen, I've already been posting a ton of that stuff now that the word is finally out, which I'm so excited about. In real time, we actually just announced yesterday, and the YouTube video is going up in like a week. So I'm very excited to be sharing all this with y'all. Of course, I will have more updates as my pregnancy progresses. If y'all have any like questions or anything, definitely feel free to let me know. I'm so excited to be sharing this with you guys and bringing you along for the journey. So definitely make sure you are subscribed so you can stay tuned for all the content and everything that is to come. We are so excited, and I will see you guys in our next video. Bye guys.